Good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock on Tuesday in the UK, and it's 11 o'clock in the morning in the Cayman Islands, where my guest today is Christina Pineda, who you may hear in the background. There is a half-term, midterm kids class going in the next room, because among her many ventures from this bright young entrepreneur and one of Cayman's brightest young leaders is Art Nest. I saw Christina in September when I was in Cayman. We had a really great lunch and meeting, which covered tons of ground. I imagine she's probably opened another 3 businesses in the last month and done another 5 things. I'm excited we haven't spoken for the last 5 or 6 weeks since I got back to the UK. Anyway, it's great to have you on and to have half an hour to listen to what's on your mind and chat away. Hi, Christina.
Hi, awesome. Thanks for having me, Tom. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, so the floor is yours. What should we chat about?
I guess I can touch on some of the things you've mentioned and just, for your audience that don't know me, just catch them up a bit. So yeah, I would describe myself as a serial entrepreneur, having started in my early 20s with Cafe del Sol. So I basically created that from scratch when Starbucks said, no, we don't want you. You're too small a jurisdiction. And 20 years later, they're here now because they realize we're not just any regular small jurisdiction. But when people say no to me, I sort of go, well, I can just make that myself. and so I do. So that was the first internet coffee house in the Cayman Islands where we had dial-up and people could come and check their emails. And it was very novel at the time. And I mean, my brother says, Christina, 1 in every 10 businesses make it, and you just happen to hit the lucky cash cow this time. He's like, not everything's going to be like this. And so that really like gave me a fright. And I thought, oh no, I wonder. But honestly, it kind of keeps happening. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for whatever that is that allows that to happen. But so yeah, I've been a serial entrepreneur from the time I was very little, even from high school actually. So always on the hustle, selling lollipops and whatnot. So I was destined for it. But I think what I've learned throughout my journey, probably 25 years now, just doing that. I think I've learned that I don't have to start every idea I have. I don't have to launch it. So that's the one thing I have learned. But it's been a long journey learning that, because I would feel like, oh, I got to get there first. I got to be the first one. I got to do this. This is a great idea, because I can see the gaps in markets very easily. So I can see, and I'm very well traveled. So I go away and I get really good ideas. And I thought, oh, this could work here if we did this and, Caymanized it, so to speak. For instance, like the co-working idea, that was just, something that I knew was going to eventually come to Cayman. And I was like, oh, maybe I could be like the first little beta tester of that. And so I started that in a larger space that we were in before COVID. And then during COVID, we shut down completely. And I thought, all right, well, that was a nice run. Art Nest was good and it was fun. And all right, what's the next challenge? But, the community wouldn't let me give up on it. They just kept saying, please, can you bring it back? And to be honest, it's almost better than ever now, because we're in a smaller space and there's more demand for it because no one's going off island as frequently. So they need things to do. So it's been really, really popular again. It's as if we never shut down. And I'm in awe of that. So that's pretty cool to see that happen.
Let's just pause for a minute. A thought that occurs to me, I remember the big space you had, because it had been, if I remember right, a big furniture store. And you took on this huge space before COVID. And part of it was like, you called it Art Nest then, and part of it was art classes in the evenings and school holidays and stuff like this. But it was also became a really brilliantly laid out. You'd use the space from the old show displays from the rooms, and you hadn't stripped out all the stuff from the furniture store, and you had all this creative co-working, and you'd have artists and people, just self-employed people doing freelancing. You'd have programmers, graphic designers, coaches, different people using the space and then creating a community around it. I found it quite remarkable. And that was years ago. And then I moved to London, and you see WeWork and you see co-working spaces. And what occurs to me listening to you is what you built there was a very entrepreneurial thing, which I did a lot in my career, and I'm older than you. In my career in Cayman was take an idea from somewhere else and, as you said, Caymanize it. And there's a number of them I didn't do that I regret, and this time I did do, and they worked really well. But what's interesting is when you take it and make it even better. And I think one of my themes, sorry, we're not sure if your internet's cutting out or not. If we can just continue. Seem to have lost you. You back? Okay, just went.
We're good.
But one of my themes around Cayman is believing in ourselves as a people and as a country. And, you know, seeing an example like you did with ArtNest, it's not just we'll Caymanize it for a small country, but as you said, Cayman isn't any small country, you know, and you had a wonderful coffee shop with internet, like when internet was at the dial-up stage and you were like 12. I mean, you know, I still look about really young, and I'm acting and showing my age, but Cayman can sometimes be better than big countries. And actually the flexibility and mobility we have, the ease of setting up businesses, local businesses in Cayman, you know, relatively, the fact it's a small community and you can tap into people and build connections really quickly. There's some amazing things some things don't work as well in Cayman. Let's be clear about that. But when we do have great examples, those can be, to me, they can be scaled in terms of helping people, you know, believe in Cayman and believe in Caymanians and believe that we can do amazing things.
Yes.
And just to touch on, to flip it back to you, we met, yikes, about 9 years ago. And you were doing another job at the time of another quite remarkable Cayman organization, which continues to go from strength to strength. So tell us a little bit about where you were when we met, and maybe about that organization and what you did there.
Yes. So I left a career in law litigation to go and work at one of the, I think, the most important charities that exists in the Cayman Islands and probably throughout the world in Europe, the National Trust for the Cayman Islands. And during my time there, I think I was there for about 6 years. I had promised them 2, and I stayed triple the amount that I said I would. So I felt really good about that. So I stayed there for 6 years. And during that time, I really helped to make, I think my goal was to make conservation sexy, to make, you know, Cayman, we think we're environmental, but we're not. We don't really get it. We think that, you know, being environmental means we love nature and we love to pick up the starfish out of the water and we love to fish and kill animals. Like that's our idea of, you know, being nature lovers. So to actually help educate some of my peers and you know, the people around me, and especially the kids are hardcore eco warriors, so they get it. But the harder bit was my own peers, to get them to understand that, you know, this is really important, and if we don't preserve it, who will? And it won't be left for, you know, there'll be nothing left. So I really enjoyed that. We saw the National Trust become, you know, this sleepy little organization and really thrust into the limelight because we had some really cool events and campaigns and things that had never been done before. Like we created the first Islands Glow Run as a fundraiser. We've done, you know, multiple things. It's just really cool to see something be revived, because when I got there, it was the 25th anniversary. And I was able to take it right through to their 30th anniversary. And so to see the change in that short 5 years, things had changed in 5 years that hadn't changed for decades before. So it was a pleasure to be a part of that. And I was able to build a really strong team there that to this day, we still stay in touch. And it's really cool because now a former colleague or a friend of mine, Anik Jackman, is now the director there. And it's good to see another Caymanian in that role. So it's just nice to see Caymanians being promoted and being involved with the environment and our heritage. So I loved it.
I like your context there of making conservation sexy. And you know, in Cayman, we do have a long way to go still. There are a lot of areas where we're very, very poor, particularly in personal consumption in the environment.
Yes, absolutely.
However, we are also absolutely world leading on things like marine parks. I can't remember what it actually stands for the audience, but CCMI, the Marine Institute in Little Cayman, and the Iguana Recovery Program, and of course the Turtle Center, which has so much to teach the rest of the world on integrating local use of non-endangered species with conservation. And my friend Renee Howell works there and is focusing on actually taking those learnings to other institutions around the world and showing Cayman's leadership. So that's cool. And then you did, then you went on a leadership program that we did, and that was a really one of the coolest things I've ever been involved in was creating that opportunity for people in Cayman in 2012 and 2013. And the alumni from that still tend to be in touch with each other, and because it was a full year program. So
yeah, that was awesome. That was a great experience. Because I felt it took my leadership to another level, you know, being able to, you know, just, you know, coach people and hold space for people that you worked with, as well as, all right, hang on one second.
Caught her in the middle of the day when there's a camp at Art Nest. This is
exactly.
Are you okay?
Need to use the toilet. She needs to use the toilet, she says. Anyway, moving along.
But okay, let's move to the present day a little bit. The community wouldn't let Art Nest go away, so you've rebuilt it. You've got your own studio. You've got another space in town. What's next? What are you seeing? Well, for yourself, for business, or maybe for the community, and you know, because people can look at this and listen to this later. You know, it goes out live, but the podcast gets a decent audience now. And we can make sure people in Cayman see it, Christina. So, you know.
Well, I don't want to reveal any industry secrets then, no. But now I can generally talk, though, about the vision. The vision for Art Nest has always been to connect people to their creativity, because creativity is, I believe, the very soul of us, you know, like Julia Cameron says, it's tantamount to spirituality. So I really believe that. Creativity is also problem solving. So it helps, you know, when we're doing a lot of corporate team building, they're seeing the value of creative wellness now. So they're inviting us a lot more to come into the workplace and do some of these workshops that we do, and they're loving it. So the idea is really to expand. It is an educational art studio. So we're based, you know, that's mainly what we do here. And so I want to expand on that vision. It's always been the vision to sort of have push creative industries in the Cayman Islands to prove that it can be a viable career for young Caymanians who don't want to just get pigeonholed into one of the like I did, like you did, you know, into the accountant and lawyer role. There are other things that you can do, and there are a lot of artists sitting in lawyer and accountant cubicles. That's what I've discovered since we've been doing our paint and sip classes. They come here and they're fantastic, and they love it, and they engage so much, and they connect with that part of themselves that they haven't been for a long time. But people don't realize we're all creative. You know, some of us just practice more than others. You know, when people say, "Oh, I'm not creative at all," I'm like, actually, that's not true. Did you solve a problem today? Then you're creative.
Wow.
Yeah. So I really think that just getting people connected with that part of them actually opens up their genius even more. So my grand scheme of things, I would love to open like a Cayman's first art therapy center, where we can actually do proper therapy using art. I'd like to open an art-based school, an art and nature-based school. There are lots of forest schooling in the UK and Europe, and it's just amazing. So I'd love to do something where it bucks the traditional. You talked about the education system earlier. We were talking about it before we went live. And I just think there's so much to be desired there, you know? So I think if we can take non-traditional approaches and actually help children learn the way they were designed to learn versus just this old school, like traditional, you know, assessment-based stuff, that's not really a true test of intelligence. True test of intelligence is how you apply your creativity to problem solving. That's intelligence in my definition of it. So why not use the arts? Why not use nature? Why not use ways that we naturally learn? So yeah, that's my heart's big on that, to have and a lot more schools are popping up now. So I'm really happy to see that some schools that are, you know, really taking the nature and art approach, and, you know, so it's an exciting time for Cayman, especially with all the remote learning stuff. I think people realize, wait a minute, we don't have to do things the same. So that's a bigger, larger vision, you know.
Well, Yeah, and in terms of Caymanizing, I was just thinking around this idea of alumni, because not just the leadership growth program you're on, but I was just checking my notes. 68 people have been in these conversations with me so far, and one of them is a lady called Justine Clement, who was on in May this year, who lives quite close to me, and she's really well trained and runs things in things like forest bathing and things like this. So there are things can be taken into that, right? And take those learnings. So feel free to connect to any of those people yourself, or I can connect you. But another
Very
one,
cool.
the other thought that occurred to me, you said something about people being creative, everybody's creative. I'm finishing a project right now with a small and very fast growing company. And one of their drivers is that one of the founding partners was told early in his career in one of the world's major media companies, where he was working in a really key role, but he wanted to be in a creative director role. He said, no, you're not creative. And he just went, so he's really passionate that creativity can be taught. Or putting it another way, if the lawyer in a cubicle is creative, an artist, as you said, is drawing it out of people. And what occurs to me in this is going to come back to two alumni of this show, is the bit around business, because you know me, I love business. And I love business as a force for good. And one of the things I see in Cayman, both with our politicians and our businesses, is they're not looking outside the box. They want to keep, it's a wealthy country, and they want to keep everything the way it is. They want to protect and defend the way it is, rather than recognizing that if you're a small bob on the ocean, you have to find a way to float and go with the flow. And if the world is flowing in a certain way in offshore finance and restrictions, you've got to find a new way. If the world is moving a certain way with green power, you've got to find a new way. And what occurs to me is that there's a lady called Kay Scorrer and a guy called Steve Chapman. And a third one, they've all been on the show, and I met them all since I moved to the UK, one called Rob Poynton. And these three people are all very, very high level facilitators, often in corporate environments and environments where you're looking at big global change. Like, I would not be surprised if one or more of them is involved in COP26 in Glasgow in November, right?
Oh, wow.
Behind me, you see a lost cat poster. Okay. It's not actually a lost cat poster. It's a piece of subversive art. It's actually for sale for £300. Right? Nobody's going to buy one, but Steve did that as a project. And he does what he calls outsider art. And he's just thinks very differently from anybody else I've ever met. And people love him coming in and running corporate workshops to get them thinking differently. One of those is up at, Lucky You'll Kill Me, the sister business to Jesse's Juices is downtown.
Southwest Collective.
Southwest Collective. So I asked him, I said, can I put this up there? Because when you look closely at it, it says, this is not a lost cat poster underneath the words lost cat. Now, Steve now has something like 90 countries this is being put up in, and he has a Google API, a map on his website that shows it, okay? Kay has a business called Have More Fun Limited.
Oh, love it.
Right, and she's a dancer. She was also a chemist. She also ran a massive marketing agency. She mostly she does a ton of stuff with the Teenage Cancer Trust. She did what I call an inside out conference before the pandemic called Turning the Tables, where young people who'd been through massive challenges, massive trauma, cancer survivors and others, spoke to CEOs who were in the audience, not the other way around.
Wow, that's awesome.
But she creates change through fun and dance.
That's amazing.
Rob Poynton is just a brilliant guy, and he just has a very different way of thinking. And what's occurring to me is I'm just looking to be creative here, is that, and maybe it's my bias, but an art school with nature, brilliant. Using art to educate, brilliant. And what if you could get, for example, the whole board of Cayman Finance are practicing lawyers and accountants in Cayman, right? And that's a really key part of our community. What if you got them to do a workshop where you had them being creative and artistic? Then you got them thinking about, well, okay, what do you need to focus on? I'm just thinking of ways to unlock creative thinking and lateral thinking and out of the box thinking. So
Yes, exactly. And we've been doing that with some big government organizations. They'll call the departments, they'll call us and say, listen, we need a team building thing that will help us get on the same page. And we want to do it in a fun way. And, we'll go in and we'll give them 3 canvases that they're working on. And then halfway through, they're working on this painting together. And then halfway through, we say, stop, freeze, switch canvases. And they all flip out and they freak out. Yeah. And so, and we're, me and my facilitators were observing how their reactions and how they're going to resolve this, that stress that's just been imposed on them. And after the whole thing's done, I mean, the paintings turn out fabulous, first of all, which is always like an awesome miracle. But, and these are untrained artists, so they're always shocked that they can do this. But at the end, we have a conversation about, well, what was that like? And what did you notice? And what did you, can you take this lesson and apply it to when something pops up in the workplace unexpectedly, And it goes along with that market force type thing where it's like, who are you under stress and how do you relate? So it's like almost like a feeding point into that sort of thing. So yeah, and being
that sounds like a great unlocking thing. I didn't realize you were doing that. What I do remember is one time on a weekend, you asked me to come and just support a little bit and observe when you ran a board meeting for a whole weekend for 20 odd members of the National Trust Board. And you talked about how elevating your leadership a number of years ago helped you with coaching and facilitation. And I was just in awe at how you did that. And so that just tool you came up with, that's world class. It's simple, but world class. It's just creative. And actually, if you get people to, I think I'm getting excited. So I think Cayman could use a lot more of these things. So
exactly. And what I'll do, I'll flip you my brochure so you can see all the stuff we do. But yeah, it's really exciting. And like I said, people are now seeing the benefit. And, they have all these wellness committees now in all the organizations, and they're reaching out every week. We get a request, at least one, from a law firm, an accounting, a government department. And it's just like, wow, they're actually seeing the value of creativity now, which has never happened before in my lifetime.
I'm taking it into a slightly different direction around leadership. And so wellness is super important. And I think, some of the things that have been happening in the last couple of years, there's been real conversations happening around the world about mental health and wellness, and it's happening in Cayman too, which is great. But this isn't an HR, creativity is not an HR issue. It's a strategic value proposition. It's Cayman Inc. needs to change. We need some quite radical change around the environment, around how we power our homes. I just saw somebody advertising a LEED as an environmentally sensitive award, certified home that was nearly 8,000 square feet. And I went, that's a contradiction in terms. Who needs an 8,000 square foot home? Right. And I don't care how energy efficient it is. There's
kind of self-defeating.
There's some reinvention needed. And what if somebody creatively goes, actually, I want to have less impact on the planet. I'm going to live in a 2,000 square foot home.
Listen, I am a tiny house freak. I think we need to have a whole tiny house community here, because that would solve a lot of the housing issues we have, and, low income housing, etc. So yeah, I'm all for that.
That's an example of creative thinking. And you get a bunch of people in the room and have them flip canvases and go, okay, how do we solve housing problems in Cayman? Because the answer right now is going to be nudging at the edges of what's already present. But if the answer could be, what if you have a co-living community because there's a generation of people in Cayman who aren't going to be able to afford to retire because pensions were introduced 20, 25 years ago. They've not saved enough. We've seen a breakup of extended families a lot in Cayman in the last generation. So there's people who we're actually seeing, I find it very sad, we're seeing healthcare refugees moving from Cayman to the UK because they can have a UK passport.
Yes.
Because they know they can get free healthcare as they get older. And they want to live in Cayman. They don't want to live in the cold in the UK in the winter, right? But what if
they feel they have no choice?
What if you had a co-living community where everybody gets a 450 square foot studio?
That's my plan, Tom. That's my plan. Like I actually started a coalition called Think Tank, and it's spelt weird, THINQ. TANQ. So Think Tank, right around, before elections were supposed to happen. And I had a lot of people, interested in coming, and they came and they met for that time. And then once elections happened, everybody disbanded. And I thought, that's a bit self-serving. But the idea is to have this on a continuous basis, and like you said, attack these issues strategically and basically, like in terms of priority, like right now, public transport and road systems and traffic here, major one, right? That can be solved. That is not rocket science. Why are we not solving this? I wanted to get the best brains and the most creative people in a room together, and we just literally hash it out. We make a strategic plan and do a situation analysis for the government and be like, here you go. But these have to be people that aren't looking for remuneration. It has to be just out of the goodness of their heart. So that's also the other, hurdle. But there are people out here that want to change and want to do that. It's just going to take somebody to lead that, and that's what I was hoping to do, and then COVID and blah blah blah. So maybe we can.
I will talk. You've got my creative juices flowing. So you're being you, and it reminds me. Up until about 4 and a bit years ago, for about 2 years, I'd created something like that, a dinner club, and among some of the most senior leaders on the island, so they had the ability to make change. And it was totally private. It was beyond Chatham House rules, because people think they have this concept of Chatham House and they think that means you can't say anything to anybody. No, it means you share the ideas, but they have to be unattributed. At this level, it was beyond that. So it was like nothing that happened in the room left the room. But I said, how about we each host a dinner every 2 months, and we'll have no more than 8 of us, and we'll spend the whole no small talk, and we'll spend the whole dinner talking about an issue. Now, each person can choose that the effects came out. Each person can choose an issue for their hosting. It doesn't mean they paid for the dinner. We chose a restaurant or ate somebody's house, but they were the host for the dinner, the event. And they chose a thing. They could put together a small paper or something for everybody to read. And everybody just came prepared to talk it through. And typically, the reason we had 8 people, because back before COVID, people traveled a lot. So you'd have the dates in the diary, but you'd still only on average get 6 people. And we'd have about a 3-hour dinner meeting on a weeknight. And if I told you the people who were in that group, they had the ability to affect change. So I have to hope that some of them then took some of those ideas onwards at some level. They might have got stuck. But all I'm saying is, I love how your implementation will be different, because you've got 2 Q's in the name. But there are people who, whether or not they have, this is balance, right? They have to have some skin in the game so they can make a difference, right? But they have to be doing it for the right reasons. And the one thing I was really committed to was they had to be committed to Cayman, right? There were a couple of people who weren't Caymanian. They definitely had that feeling they were committed, and that was the thing. So if they were committed to the country, the majority were Caymanian, right? But they were the people who had the power to make change and influence change. So that was a fun
great idea.
I'd forgotten I did that. I did it for 2 years, and it went really well. I'm just remembering in my mind who the people in that group were, and I should message them and go, watch the show with Christina. She's somebody you can talk to about creative thinking for Cayman. So
awesome. I love it. So that's definitely another thing on my, the back burner that I want to bring back. It may take until January, the new year or whatever, but it's definitely on my heart, because I love charity. I don't know. I can't explain it. Like, I'm not motivated by money, but I'm motivated by impact and change. So that to me is, sometimes to my detriment, because my husband will say, you do everything for free. And I'm like, well, the money will follow. I don't have to worry about that. Like, I know I'm doing something that matters and that will have a legacy for the rest of, the island, and will go on forever. That's kind of what I'm driven by. And I'm trying to find people that are similar. And I never thought there were many, but there are. There are more than we think, So like you said, you found 8. That's amazing. So they're out there, and they've been involved in really cool charities like R3, which I'm also now on the board of, things like that. So they are trying to make a difference in their own way, but to actually bring the people in a room together and really, really do the work that somehow the country isn't doing, I think would be game changing here. So yeah.
I'll give you a thought from me to finish, then I'll let you have the last word, and also to tell us where you can be found online. Is the word impact, because you can have the word charity. In the UK, they use this weird language of third sector. So not public, not private, but third. There's not for profit. And one of my things is I believe in companies can make profit as an outcome of being purpose-led and putting purpose people on planet first. But the thing is, what's the impact they're going to have? So there is this concept in the investment community of impact investing. So Cayman is an entrepreneurial society. Caymanians are used to making their own way. The idea of having a steady job for your career is a very modern idea in Cayman. It's not the way people used to operate. So let's take that creativity and entrepreneurship where people can make a profit, but like the way you like to live is the way I like to live, which is the money will follow if you do stuff which can have an impact. So you're a very impactful leader and you have a big impact on me. So the word impact.
Oh, thank you. As do you.
Thank you. What's your what closing thoughts might you have, listeners and viewers, and then let us know where they can find you online.
So yeah, I just basically, because we've talked about being a multi-potentialite, you know, very, very, very passionate about different things. So right now I'm focusing on writing my novels, doing my own artwork. I have an art show coming up soon, doing the art education through Art Nest, leading retreats and facilitating, you know, corporate culture change. Those are my like big 4 pillars. I love those things and they really motivate me. And I want to be doing some more online courses and developing some tools so that I can reach more people and have more impact. Because, you know, the in-person thing is getting harder and harder. So I thought, how can we do this? Is through online courses and workshops. So that's another thing coming soon. But yeah, you guys can keep up with me at creativechristina.co. That's my personal website. And then my business website is artnestcayman.com. Yeah, so you can see everything that's happening on any of those pages. I'm also on Instagram and actually on TikTok now, which is quite embarrassing. But anyway, I have nothing on there of him yet. I haven't started doing anything yet with it, so we shall see.
Soon come, as we say. So creativechristina.co and artnestcayman.com. Brilliant. Yeah. Well, you've certainly got you've inspired me to think a bit even more creatively than sometimes I do. So thank you very much. And I'll let you get back to your kids class.
Thank you. And thank you for valuing creativity, Tom. I always appreciate that about you. So yeah, love it.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye.